So this audio, or rather, not the audio, rather, my commentary on the audio sparked quite an outrage. More, mostly in the Black community on TikTok, and I think of all the people who spoke out and contesting me, you were the only one that did it like respectfully. The overwhelming majority of negative attention I got was shut up and stay out of Black issues.
Saw that.
Yeah, and it was like, okay. And and then, but surprisingly, I got like more positive attention than I thought. There seems to be a lot of younger Black men and women who seem to feel the way that I had expressed this. And I'm not saying that that doesn't validate what I said, but I think at the very least there is some, even if it's a small outcry of some form of like gatekeeping within the Black community, or rather the interpretation. I would say that obviously on face value, this audio is almost exclusively used by Black people to put their other Black people down who don't share the same opinions. I don't think you're contesting the literally that, because I think that like if you look in there, like the second audio up the top is like a fucking joke, right? So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, what we're basically going to have a conversation about today is the interpretation of the more serious videos where you say, and I don't want to get any foul language, but you say basically people to a degree, or Black people that use this audio, they're taking a shot at people who are, I don't know how you would phrase like
Okay. Like you don't want me to drop like the C word.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
like
I
that,
don't know.
right?
Yeah. So like,
Yeah.
I want to like trying to say like a political correct way. People who, so they'll use it to critique Black
Well,
people
I can
who.
say stuff that you like. Uncle
Well, I don't.
Tom's, right?
Yeah. Okay, Uncle Tom is. I guess that I don't want to say it, but like that's your perspective,
Yeah.
and then my perspective would be like that's. It's just a different interpretation. So one is like a traitor to their. I guess against the best interest of Black people, right? That's what you. The way that you say that it's used, right?
Well, I mean, yeah. Like the thing is that it's against people like that primarily, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people mostly try to make it about like that. That's why the only issue that I really took with your audio in particular was the wording. So I'm wondering, like, do you want to stick by this wording, right? That like it's almost exclusively used by Black people to put down other Black people who don't have this share the same opinions.
No, I would say the most prominent ones seem to be putting down Black people. What I want to do is go through like the individual ones of the audio, and then see what our interpretation on that audio is.
Sure, we could do that.
And then that I think will be a great way to have this conversation, because I'm sure that there are some things. I'm certainly looking forward to it. Just trying to fucking clean my glasses because I'm blind. All right, so I'm just gonna click on the audio. I don't think we necessarily need to hear the actual audios.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah. So one thing I want to say right off the bat is the top audio, when I had looked at it, and for a while, for some reason, the video's gone. But the top audio that I had seen was like, "Oh, I'm a Black Trump supporter." With this, and so that's kind of where I feel like we would start like the conversation. So do you feel that Black Trump supporters represent, I guess in your words, like Uncle Tom Black people?
So the thing about that is, and I got that argument a lot, even on my own page. Everybody was saying like, oh, if you look at the top audio, it was about the, just Black people being Trump supporters, and how does that make them like less Black or whatever, right? So like Papa Good is right, like they are putting down people just for having different views, because obviously supporting Trump is a political view. And I think that people very much oversimplify things when it comes to that. And also, I also think that the argument that simply because it was the top audio is ridiculous, right? Like just the person who has the most followers and gets the most views is the one that's going to be the top audio. So it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the most true, right?
Oh, for sure.
So and I think that that's the issue, because people are making it seem like because the one that was at the top was that one, that this must be the one that people use the most, so that this is how people feel the most. And it's not that we're just bashing Black conservatives for being conservative, right? It's like, how can I say this? It really comes down to, and this is what it's difficult to understand for a lot of people, and I don't think that they get this, right? It's that I'm actually going to use a point that I actually heard from a video that I saw a while ago on TikTok. Lord knows if I can find it again. But I remember this woman, she said, I'm not saying I'm a liberal, but when I talk about equal rights and racial equality, people assume that I'm not a Republican. Do you see what I mean? So it's like we have these norms that have fallen in place with being conservative, right? Like a lot of people think that people who are Republican or conservative kind of fall into they're more racist on that side, right?
Sure.
So
Well, I understand that racists tend to
you get what I
trend
mean?
towards this side.
So
Yeah.
like, so supporting Trump, being a Republican, being a conservative, does that mean that you're less black? Not necessarily, but it just so happens to be that there are a lot of conservatives out there who are racist,
Hmm.
who are bigoted, who are homophobic, transphobic, etc. Right? And there are a lot who are not. I know this, but from my side, when I see it the most, the people who say stuff like white lives matter on my page are
Hmm.
conservatives. The Trump 2020s in their bio.
Right.
So it's like, can you truly blame people for thinking that a black conservative is an Uncle Tom or appealing? I really hate that term too, like appearing to like white,
White state, like the white. Yeah, I get what you're saying though.
you know what I
No,
mean?
I
Like
understand.
I
Like,
don't
well,
I don't
listen,
like
listen.
white validation or whatever it is.
Let's just be kind of clear, right? Like the what is it? The Christian walkers, right? Is that what you're trying to
Yeah,
say?
the Christian walkers of the world.
And
Yeah.
I'm gonna be very clear because I know that you like you have like I'm not like nothing huge, but I know that you've brought up Tyler Bluntman, Christian Walker, and Topher Town Music, and
So for time music, yeah.
I don't think that Topher and Tyler are like trying to appeal to white people. I do maybe think that Christian Walker is, and so like in that context, like it's not all conservatives like you were saying before, but it's like the loudest ones, I suppose, because I would say Christian Walker is the loudest in my opinion. So so do you so I just want to like do you think that like generally speaking people black people who are Trump supporters are to an extent like a traitor to their own race, or maybe
Yes.
okay.
And here's the thing. It's not so. Here's the thing. Like you said, like you don't believe that Tyler and Topher are trying to appeal to white people or appeal to racists, right? And I
Yeah.
agree. I don't think so. Like I've seen. Well, maybe Tyler. It's questionable. Especially with this whole issue, the whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing really made me think that he was actually trying to do that.
Mhm.
Because he was going so hard to defend somebody who like, you know what I mean? Like there's this whole double standard that, when Breonna Taylor was killed, and it's like, oh well, the law let the cops off, so the law is right. And then
Yeah, right.
Kyle Rittenhouse
All of a
kills two
sudden,
people,
yeah, the law.
and then it's like the law
Mhm.
says he's guilty, but then you're trying to defend him. So like, who are you pandering to?
Yeah,
Like it's
right.
not like I don't put people in a category. People put themselves in a category,
Mhm.
right? And I think that a lot of us feel the same way too. And to answer your question in the best way that I know how, let's assume that they're not trying to appeal to white people or appeal to racists or however
Mhm.
people want to say it. They are still inadvertently giving those people fuel for the fire. If you look at their comments, their followers, most of them are white. A lot of them are indeed racist. A lot of them come to my page and say racist things. You
Sure,
know what I
yeah.
mean? And we can say that. Well, how do you know they're racist, right?
Well,
And
I know
that's
the
the
type of
problem.
attention you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah,
and like
but
in general, especially on TikTok, I don't necessarily find people to be responsible for their followers per se.
mhm.
Because I don't know if you knew, but like with the whole Denelage, when he got banned off of
Yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like the number one defender, right? So I was all over that whole thing. I
Mhm.
went as far to I ended up talking to the New York Times writer for the article that they wrote about him. Like it was, so I don't necessarily think that you're responsible for your followers, though. You know that I've also made a lot of videos against my followers in that regard. But to corral it a little bit, what is it about? Because I can understand, because I come from a very moderate area that's very split when it comes to like race distribution, I guess you'd say. And so like when I see anybody that is a Trump supporter, I don't immediately go to like a very hyperbolic like racist rhetoric Trump supporter. A lot of times people's interpretations of being a Trump supporter are like, well, he's not great. I wish he would shut up, but like I think that he's doing good things. And I've heard that even from like black people in my area. And so that's where I come from, and I think that it's sometimes like people get caught up in like especially the online TikTok hyperbolic nature of like you love them or hate them rather than like you suffer through them or you don't kind of a deal. And so to that point, I guess I'd want to ask next, what is it exactly about Trump that you feel like would make somebody a traitor to their race? And I'm not trying to be like intense when I word it like that, but yeah, you get what I'm saying.
So I don't know if it's like people ask me a lot about Trump, and the thing is, if anybody's actually paid attention to my channel, I'm not a political channel,
Mm.
right? I talk more about like social stuff,
Make fun
or
of
I make
anime
like
nerds, right?
yeah, exactly. I make logical arguments or make fun of that entire anime community. Um, and the thing is that it's because I'm not too well versed on politics specifically, unless I have to do research to debunk something, then I'll do research on that, right? But I think that when it comes to Trump's, do I think Trump is bad, like bad?
Well, I think he's bad.
Yes. I think he's a. I think he's a fascist. That's how I feel.
I don't know.
I think he's a fascist.
I don't know if I think he's a fascist. I think that
I do.
I
Because
understand
of
that.
his patterns of speech, the way, if you ever watch any of his speeches and before he was president and now, it's like he separates blacks from America. You know what I mean? Like when he talks about the Black Lives Matter movement or the riots or anything like that, he says like we need to protect Americans, as if like the people who are protesting or even rioting aren't Americans. It's very like, if you go back and watch Hitler's speeches and watch Stalin's, there's a lot of anyway.
I would say just to I guess contest that point, and like I will say first and foremost, just for context, I think people, and I'm about to do it myself, give Trump way too much of the benefit of the doubt and like do way too much explaining for him. But I would say that it seems more to me like he's a silver spoon business leader who's used to getting everything the way that he wants, and he has like a meltdown when he doesn't.
Could be.
Rather than being like a pure fascist, I think that he's just I guess I don't want to entitled. Yeah, he's like an entitled brat.
I do want to answer your question though. I don't like to divert. Sometimes I feel like things are
fine. It's a conversation.
That simple and need a little bit of nuance.
No, I understand it. Well, like if you use the term "Make America Great Again" as like a focal point on what you're talking about, where like what he says very much like it may not necessarily be intended to be racist, but racists will weaponize what he says and go like, "Oh, that's racist," and then he won't specifically point out that it's not racist. Does that make sense?
Problem that I have with Trump's existence, right? His existence has formed this cult. People worship the dude. Like, do you remember this? Like, dude, me and you were the same age, right? Like, do you remember this shit with like George Bush? I'm sorry, am I allowed to curse on your stream or not? I don't want to.
Yeah, shit's fine. Just nothing racially charged.
Okay, gotcha. But like, like I don't remember any of this with Bush or any other president for that matter. Not even Obama. Like, and Obama was the first black president. You thought that you would think that people would idolize the shit out of him.
They did, but like not to the degree.
I mean, people respected Obama's eloquence. You know what I mean? Like those are things that people respected about Obama. It wasn't just like Obama, like just him, his existence, just him being alive, like he could do no wrong. That's how people feel about Trump, and I feel like his existence fuels racists and white supremacists. His existence makes them more confident.
I can see that.
And it has allowed them to come to this place in America where they feel like they are comfortable with this existence. Right, and I wonder what's going to happen after he's gone, whether it's now or in another 4 years.
I know what you mean with that.
Like, do you just turn in all your shit that you bought, like, like, what do you do?
I guess you vote for Donald Trump Jr.,
Yeah, I think his mere existence is a problem in this country. That's my issue. Not him per se, but his existence.
I get that. I think that like when I brought up before like the MAGA thing, right? It's like it's almost his formula, right? He says something that like is very easily interpreted as like racist, make America great again. And like most people's first thought is like, oh, when was it great? Right? The 1960s, you know what I mean? Like but like that's what he's talking about. But if I'm giving the benefit of the doubt, I'd say from the middle class being empowered, that type of perspective. And then you ask him, "Hey, what does make America great again mean?" And he just like doesn't. He just doesn't answer it. He doesn't like say like anything about black. He just goes like, "Oh, lowest black unemployment." So
he doesn't really answer anything. He kind of just says like, "Oh, we're doing great, and this is wonderful, and I have the best people. I know the best people." So that's really what I get out of him.
Yeah, and I think that like was it last night? No, Thursday. I don't know. Whenever day that the debate was,
Wednesday.
Yesterday. Yeah, well, it was
Tuesday.
Tuesday night. Yeah, so
Tuesday
when he was asked to condemn white supremacy, and like he just like wouldn't, because like it's his base, and he knows it.
He does.
So that's what I'd say. But I would split to get to like back to the Trump thing specifically. I would split Trump into like two parts, and that's like the social part, and then I guess you would call it the policy part, right? And so like when you focus on him socially, like he's horrible for like the social climate. When you focus with him on policy, I don't like the tax cuts. I don't like a lot of the things he did, but he has a strong argument to make that he did have very low, like the lowest black unemployment. He was, or rather, is getting people out of jail that should have never went to jail in the first
Mhm.
place, comparatively to Biden, who is putting those people in jail. So, like, policy wise, as a whole, I take the stance that as a whole, his policies are going to have, they're not sustainable. But specifically to black people, it seems like he is a net positive. And I'm not saying that you should be like, yeah, I love Trump now, but I think that
No, no,
I
agree.
think,
I'm objective
yeah,
enough to look at a
yeah,
policy and say that just because it came from Trump,
yeah,
I'm not like a super Trump basher. I'm not gonna be like,
yeah, right.
well, you know what I mean? But
Sure, but
you know,
then there's some people in general, not even just black people, who look at that and go, "Oh, I'm focused more on the policy than the social aspect, for better or for worse." And I do think that conservatives in general, and I would say black conservatives, tend to not wear their identity on their sleeve as much as like some very more progressive anything. Like I would say that progressive black people generally are black first, and then like American second, whereas I would say conservatives in general are American first, or black conservatives, let's say, are generally American first. They don't necessarily identify with their being black first. And
and that's the problem.
but I don't know that I would say, and like I understand that I'm not black, but I don't know that that necessarily is the problem, because from my perspective in general, I think identity politics has gone from being politically correct to overly politically correct. And I think that even black people can identify with that, because there are some people who get completely crucified in any community. It's not even the black community, in every identity community, simply for saying something that's against the status quo. And the only group of people that it's not socially acceptable to completely rally around and cancel somebody for speaking against their status quo is white people. And I'm not saying white people are the victim. I'm just saying that we're so much in the forefront from a power dynamic, and like socially, that like we're very much critiqued on the way that we interact with other people in general. Like if you were like, oh, vote for Trump, he's got your best interests, like that's
Mhm.
obviously racist, because you don't want to have the best
Yeah,
interests of white people.
yeah.
Because like the power dynamic needs to shift towards a more of an equal medium, and I understand that black people need to have more of a heavy shift towards more power to equal out. But then some people look at things and they go like, oh, I like this policy overall, and they don't first identify with their, what I guess you call them, their blackness.
Well, this is the only issue that I have with that, right? It's that those black conservatives. Let's say that there are black conservatives who, and this is the thing. Like now that you've said that, and I'm thinking about it, it's like how can you even be a black Trump supporter?
Mhm.
Because if you like his policies, especially because of the things that he's done for the black community, right? Which I don't disregard, like the low black unemployment, getting people out of jail for like petty drug crimes, stuff like that, et cetera, marijuana, that people get locked up for like 5 years for like marijuana. Um,
Right, yeah.
but those policies don't really affect those black conservatives because a lot of them grew up fairly privileged or in the South, right? Or around a lot of white people.
Mhm.
A lot of them really didn't grow up in places like where I grew up, like in the inner city,
Mhm.
where we call, like, I'm gonna put very heavy quotes here, the real black people, right? Because I don't want to get anybody mad saying that there's real and fake black people, but like
Right, yeah.
like where we're heavily ingrained in our culture,
Yeah, right.
right?
Like you have more.
Um,
You're facing more of like the outward
yeah, so
racism
it's
instead
like
of
so
argument.
that
Yeah.
like if somebody like my brother, right, or my friend who I know who went to jail for like a BS marijuana or drug crime, and then because of Trump's policy he got out, and then he was like, "Yo, I really dig that," right? I can understand that, but a lot of these black conservatives never had to face these issues in the first place, right? And
Mhm.
if they are out there, I haven't seen them yet. I really haven't seen them, right? A lot of them live in nice houses, right? I know John Dawson. He's a pretty popular black conservative. He's from the country. He's a country boy,
Mhm.
right? He doesn't know that the black culture, the stuff that we grew up with and dealt with. So on the policy side, it's like you can say that, oh, for the black community, yeah, it's great. I support Trump for that, but you don't even know the people that it's actually his policies are affecting in a good
Mhm.
way, right?
Right.
Or maybe you do. Maybe you have people in other cities, maybe, right? And then on the social side, how can you still like him because he allows these racists to really come out of the dark, right?
Mhm.
And say the shit that they say or act how they act, and they don't like you unless they think that you're pandering to them. Then it's like, yeah, you're off the Democratic plantation, and they're only saying that because you agree with them. But I guarantee you that if a black conservative switched up, oh, then now he's the N word again to them,
Right. I get what you're
you
saying.
know.
I understand that. I get what you're saying. So it
So
sounds like you're making a stance that like it's like the social aspect is much more important right now than the what I would say is, to a degree, the marginal policy aspect that he's promoting. Like his negative impact on the social climate is more important to focus on than like the positive impact that he's made, like from a policy perspective, because the policy perspective, well, yeah, like that would be generally marginal to you.
Papa, real quick, I have somebody asking a question in the chat. It says you're, I think he's being sarcastic as well. He says, so your geological location determines your political ideology. Isn't that an argument to defend the electoral college? What do you think about that? Because I think that that's absolutely true. Your
Well, yeah, where
geological location does often affect your.
it's landscape theory. Yeah, where you come from is going to generate who you are as an individual.
Yeah,
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 but again, like I don't like either of those. I'm a ranked voting type of a guy.
got you.
So
So I'm sorry. Back to your question.
yeah, no. So it seems like what you're saying is basically that when we look at Trump, the social negatives he's causing are more important to focus on than the policy positives. When it
For
comes to
black people,
yeah, to the
specifically.
people, yeah, okay, I can understand
Yes,
that. I could actually
yes.
see that.
Mhm.
I would point out that, like, again, like I understand what you're saying about like you should identify as black first, but I don't think that there's anything wrong about identifying as, like, we'll say black second, like American first, black second, right? Even like if your
But
argument,
nationalism,
yeah,
right?
if
Like
you're
American
well, no,
nationalism.
no, no,
What is
like
American
like for
nationalism?
patriotism. No, no, I mean like okay, so like I as a white guy, I identify as American first, and like
Hmm.
I don't really even identify as white, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
But whatever. But like a black conservatives generally like, oh, I'm an American first, black second, but they're disconnected from the social aspect. So the argument to be made that they should have less of a say when it comes to what
The
is
black
needed in the
community,
black
or
community, I could
uh,
totally agree with that. But I don't
mhm.
know if that necessarily invalidates their blackness to a degree. You know,
I mean,
I'm just
but
saying it.
how do you quantify blackness? You know that's the
I guess
question.
that's a good point. I
You
mean, you
know,
know what I mean. I
like
get we
how do
have
you
to.
quantify blackness? Like because a lot of people say like, oh, these people are less black. So is it being more ingrained in the culture? Is it caring more about your culture?
I
But
guess
because when
yeah. I
like
guess
when people say stuff like, oh, like none of us are slaves today, we all have equal opportunity, to me that sounds like that's not something that like as a black person you should know that that's
mhm,
true, but you should
right.
also understand like the
Systemic
history of.
racism.
Exactly,
Yeah,
yeah,
no.
right,
Which a
you
lot
know.
of I understand. So here's what I want to do. Let's go through some of these audios because some of these are brought up, and then we can kind of bounce off
Yeah,
of it.
let's
That'd be
do it.
cool.
Yeah,
So I don't think we need to play the audio. Like I said, the pick me.
I'm pretty sure mine is gonna pop up there too,
Is it?
so
All right, so the
yeah.
first one, I'll just read it out loud just for my chat at least. It's this first one is like, oh, I'm black and it's just a word. I'm black and I let my white friend say it. So what do you think about that? Or what's your
Yo,
interpretation of this audio? You could see it, right?
yeah, I can see it. I'm watching your stream as we go. I don't need
Okay.
to see my own face. I see it every day in the mirror, and I'm disgusted. So so I'm black, and it's just the word. I'm black, and I let my white friends say it again. See, like how many? So where I grew up, most of my friends were black and Latino.
Hmm.
I don't have white friends. You get
Right.
what I mean? So
If you
like
did,
the
would you
argument
let them
about
say it? Would you be alright if they threw a soft A on there?
if they have enough street cred.
Okay.
You know what I mean? If they have enough street cred, but even you look at people who probably has a lot. Someone like Eminem, for example, he even refuses to say it. At least not in his songs. I don't know
Right.
if he says it around people. But there are black people, and I've seen black people who know white people, who are very it's kind of a shame that being, how can I say, like a gangster has become synonymous with being black as well, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Or being tough,
absolutely.
right?
I think that that's like
Um,
a whole cultural thing as well. Like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, it's
it's
a
unfortunate derivative of like systemic racism and like
yes,
oppression and
exactly.
like
Mhm.
turning to crime and drugs and
Which I can
glorifying.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can get into like the whole history of how that even became a thing.
Hmm.
But like I've seen like white people in these cliques who again gain enough street cred to say it. But if I had white friends, or like would I let them say the end? No, I'd smack the shit out of them, right?
Right. Well,
So
I
it's
would
like,
say when we were talking because we were talking about blackness before,
mhm,
and like you know we were like, what is blackness? And like
mhm.
realistically, if we're gonna be super woke, liberal, progressive, whatever, I mean, like really race is a social construct, right? So to an extent, if you can remove blackness from one black American, I imagine you could add blackness to a white person if blackness is based on an experience.
Um, Yeah, I mean that's a fair thing, right? So,
Right?
but I mean, that kind of also goes with the point that you can take it away as well.
Right,
You,
yeah,
you
sure.
know what I mean,
Well, it's all
right?
it's basically it's what's socially acceptable to those people and those groups of people. But I think that strengthens this argument. I think the only thing that reduces it are if you specifically thought that this applied to only black conservatives who are okay with people saying the N-word. But I think that there's a lot of people who aren't black conservatives that are like totally fine with it in their social setting, not like a hey, it's more of like a hey case on case basis, because there's people who allow people to throw out the N-word, the black people,
And
and
that
I don't think,
that
and I don't think that invalidates their blackness. I think that's just simply their social circle that they're fine with.
I think it does because,
You think
like,
so?
yes, because of the historical implication of that word. I think a lot of the people who may allow their friends to say that are really young teenagers or maybe
Mhm.
immature, and they do it for the jokes. Because when you're a teenager, how much dumb stuff did you do just for the hell of it,
Oh,
right?
for sure.
You know what I mean? Like I haven't seen any actual mature person who is grown and black and not conservative say that I'm cool with like my white friend saying the N-word.
Mhm.
Like no black person would really say that. And when I say
Mhm.
no black person, I mean like somebody who's ingrained in a black culture, who respects the history, who respects our answers and everything that we went through,
Mhm.
and what that word means. You know, and I always hear the argument like, oh well, if it was so bad, why do black people say it? And you know the argument, right? It's like
Well, it's
we
like
adopted it
bringing
to
the word
change the
back.
meaning. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
sure, I get that.
you know. So
I
it's
get that.
like, so then like I feel like who really is letting their white friends say this? If the only people who I feel would do this are people who are either young or ignorant or both, because
Mhm.
they're young and ignorant. And a lot of people who are young are ignorant. I know I was when I was younger. Or grown ass adults, black people who grew up not around black people or
Maybe.
not understanding the history or feeling the effects of that history.
Mhm.
You know, like how did they feel when they went to
Well,
school? Did they
I
grow up seeing all those successful people around them and thinking, oh, like all these my parents were successful and they're black and like you guys can do it too, when they didn't actually do a goddamn thing.
Right.
People
Well,
have pissed me off,
I actually think
you
that
know.
brings up a very interesting point, because we're basically talking about black people who use the word that don't understand like the historical context to it.
Mhm.
Black people, and that it's basically your argument is that those black people are forcefully identifying as black to an extent, right? Like they don't understand the historical context, they don't understand the struggle. And like the reason I bring it up like that is because I think that there are a lot of people. I think that there are a lot of people on TikTok who have experienced like
Mhm.
legitimate issues when it comes to like I guess you're being black, and this is for literally every identity. I'm not even specifically take it to black. And so like black people, there'll be one individuals who like legitimately have felt like the weight of systemic racism,
Mhm.
just like there's legitimately like women who've actually been assaulted, and then there's LGBT people who have legitimately been marginalized, like,
Mhm.
and they identify with it and they speak on their struggle, and sometimes they do it out of anger, and then it riles up people who don't necessarily have the foundation to uh, relate themselves with these experiences, and they force this like angry narrative. And I think that that's kind of like a thing that happens as well, and then they perpetuate hatred, what we saw, like of course you were like, hey, I don't think that you're right, which is completely fair,
Yeah.
but you saw a ton of people who, and I'm not
I
saying that.
don't disagree with that though.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and that comes from mostly from the far left.
sure, yeah.
Which I can't stand, by the way. That's why, like, I've been making some videos lately that have been a little more centrist, and people are just like, "Oh, most respect for you." I'm just like, "What?" Because I'm not like
You're not
on
an
the far
asshole.
left.
Yeah,
Like I literally left a comment on one of Rumo Army's videos, and like people lost their shit because I agreed with her. You know what I mean? When she's right. You know,
right, yeah, that
but
yeah, it's tough when you say, hey,
you know,
Roma's right, and then people are like, oh, you're a piece of shit, and it's like,
yeah, like
Roma's not that bad. She's just
she's not.
she's
She's
had like
not. She
they're coming after her for like her drug usage and stuff like a couple months ago. I'm like, Jesus, what's wrong with you people? Like,
let people. Okay, who
well,
cares,
it's like
right?
it's like a very progressive idea to like be very forgiving when people have problems, but all of a sudden it's conservative. And it's like, go fuck yourself.
It's
And
ridiculous.
I think that's the
Um,
toxicity of like progressivism nowadays in general.
Yeah. So I think that the thing with that, right, that you're saying is that there is like the whole historical context and a double standard. People like kind of like forcing this victimhood, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like if you're not black, you definitely can't say it no matter what. But then if there is somebody who's black who has a white friend who they're cool with or whatever, and maybe they just don't care or whatever. Am I saying that, oh, that's racist or they really shouldn't do that? Probably not. It really depends. You know what the issue here is, Mr. Gut? Do you know why I call you Mr. Gut and not Papa Gut?
It's because it's too sexualized. Is that what it is?
No. It's because I'm a dom and I'm daddy, and I don't call anybody else Papa.
Oh my
Right.
god. Okay.
So, just
Okay.
just throwing that out there. What I'm trying to say here is that there are a lot of people like really forcing this like
The hatred to it, because
yeah, that
yeah,
hate, yeah,
as
yeah,
I
yeah,
listen to this,
right.
it makes
But
sense.
there's a lot of nuance as well, depending on very different. Everybody's different, man.
Mhm.
I don't think people understand that. Like there are general norms that exist, right?
Mhm.
But within those norms and within the people who may follow some of those norms, there's so much nuance that we do not have tolerance for that we should.
Well, yeah,
You know what I
I was
mean?
gonna bring something related to that up because yeah, I think the problem is lack of like the ability, not even lack of education, but it's lack of ability to educate, right? Because what we're doing right now, I
Mhm,
think is fantastic. Because I'm understanding like your perspective more and more as we talk. What I
mhm,
think that the problem is that like I'm a white guy sitting here having a conversation with you, and I think
mhm.
that's because if a black guy took the perspective that I took, he would be ridiculed to a much greater extent, and like to the point where nobody would want to educate them. Like that's how hard the toxicity hits. Uh,
Like I saw some of the responses to you,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, no, and like, but if I was a black guy, I think it would have been worse. I think that it would have been like, oh, you're like, to an extent, and I
Oh,
understand
if you were, yeah,
it
yeah,
would have been worse.
probably.
And so, like, how do you
Yeah.
educate that black person who may just simply, like you had said, not have experienced the upbringing that like the marginalized group of black people have in the United States? And it's like
You have
you can't do it because of how toxic everything has become. And I think that's a
I
bigger issue
I think the difference with
or
those
a big
people
issue.
is that so I think for like white people like you, I don't mean that offensively at
It's
all.
fine. I don't
Um the goal is to educate. I
know.
think with other black people who may have said the same thing and gotten his let's say somebody a black person said the same thing you did, right? I think the goal with them from other black people would be to empathize with them.
Do you think empathize? Because
To
it
yes,
sounds more
I
like
think
the goal is to like completely diminish them and like say you're not black because if I was a black guy who took the
No, no,
stance,
I'm saying. Oh, so I was using an example of how I would like if it was me trying to approach this in the correct way.
mhm.
I think that you should be empathizing with those
Oh
people.
for sure.
But
Oh,
very often,
I
like
agree that
we
you would
put
do
them
it.
down because if somebody, if look, here's a problem, right? If a black person, if a white person puts on a black race, a lot of us expect that sometimes, right? It's like,
Right,
oh, it's
yeah.
just white people being
No, there's
racist
a
again,
higher
right?
standard from black people to
Yeah,
black people as
right.
far as like perpetuating like the growth and like the positivity or the opportunity. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's a higher
So when
standard
a
on the
black
black
person
people.
does it, it's like you're black and you don't understand. Like
Right.
you should know this, right? Like you should know how this affects us, but you do it anyway.
Right.
And so of course we shit on them, you know? Like
Yeah, but I think
it's
that's like I
ridiculous.
think that's a little bit of a problem. Oh, because before you were talking about basically how like when we talked about like what is and isn't black, that they
Mhm.
are less black in the sense of like have understanding the struggle of like the American black or the black American person.
Yeah.
And like I think that that's like a little bit of an issue because there's really no way to educate people when there's a lot of hate perpetuated. And I think that like a black person take the same stance as I would have been completely shit on. There were some people who were, and like but they're not as prominent, so they're not
Mhm.
um, but yeah, no, I think that there's like a level of toxicity, and it's not black community specific. It's all identity community, and I even mean white
Oh yeah.
communities. The only
Yeah.
difference, the only difference between all like other marginalized communities and like white community is that like it's not socially acceptable to be like hyperbolic. That's the only difference. And I'm not,
Mhm.
not trying to make a claim about like some kind of victimhood I have because it should be that way generally, but it does unfortunately have the negative impact of being very toxic and gatekeeping ish when it comes to it. And I will say that it was even a little rough, for not rough for me per se, but like the negative feedback was like stay out of black issues, and then it's like it was annoying to hear that, and I made like my satirical response like, oh well, I guess I'm staying out of all black issues, and I should have worded that better. But like that's what's going to happen to your average white person. And I'm not playing white savior where it's like, oh, I'm so important to the movement. But like you know that there's a pattern of this type of behavior. It's like every time a white person's, oh, let's just say overstep their bounds. Like, right?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Mhm.
The reaction is basically go fuck yourself and stop talking about our issues. But then it comes to like a real thing like systemic racism, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you need to, and to agree with this. And like I don't think you don't really get to choose when a white person is or isn't going to be opinionated, whether it's overly or not. And education is always going to be the first way. So if like, hey, I'm over opinionated, don't just be like stay out of our issues because now I'm just like a normal white person would just be like, okay, fuck you. And I honestly do think that it kind of does harbor racism. And I'm not blaming racism on black people. I'm just saying that there are some like middle ground white people. There's some white people who just don't really get shit and they say something dumb. And then black people are just like, oh, you're dumb. And that's true. That may be true. But it ends up like, you know, they get offended. It's like their fragility. It's like, well, you're going to say I'm dumb. I'm not going to care about black people anymore. And then like, it's just this very big toxicity that kind of just, it's perpetual toxicity. Right. If you get what I'm saying.
I definitely do because I feel like that is a major issue, right? So first touching on the point of like people telling you to like stay out of black issues. My personal view of that, and here is the issue with that. And I did watch a couple of other arguments going against what I said, right? That somebody advocating for black people is not the same as them criticizing black people. And I think that is bullshit.
Mhm.
I think that like why can't white people be critical of what anybody of any race does?
Sure.
You get what I
yeah.
mean? Like because of the well, again,
Even
there's
if it's
still
wrong.
context, right? Yeah, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
honestly.
Like even if you're wrong,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
just be critical back to that person. Like
Sure.
and dude,
In a
like
constructive way.
exactly, right?
Yeah,
Like
sure.
I'm a libertarian. People do not truly understand my argument that I think that anybody can and do whatever you want, but you are
Sure.
not free from consequences for doing certain
Sure.
things, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not I'm not going to shut down, gatekeep, or dictate anybody. I'm not the authority on anything, right?
Mhm.
But are there like things that you shouldn't do? Absolutely,
Sure.
right? And do I think white people shouldn't be critical of anybody of any other race or black people for that matter? No, because there may be perspectives that you have from your side that we don't see. Because a lot of people who are very black, like certain black supremacists, for example, or
Mhm.
just people who are very, very, very deeply into the black culture, some of them I feel are they're very proud to be black, right? They
Sure.
I'm just gonna say it, it's very close to black supremacy,
Well, it is
right?
black supremacy.
So
Yeah,
when they
yeah, yeah.
see,
Like
yeah, and
Dr.
when they see
Umar
any
kind of a
white
thing.
person criticize, it's like, no, you can't do that, right? And I think that
Yeah.
that's BS. I think that we should be open to the criticism, even if you don't agree with it. You can tell somebody, hey, you're wrong, but not like you can't say this,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
As long as you're not just being directly racist to black people as a white person. I don't think that white people shouldn't have a say, but I do. And here's the other part. This is now me being black again, right? Is that I do feel like as a white person, there are things that white people are simply just never going to
oh,
understand.
sure. Well, yeah.
That just is the way. Like there are problems about the black community or things about our culture and our people that white people you simply will never get.
No,
You
that's
have to
true.
be us. You have to live our lives, right? Or the closest thing you get is growing up like us,
Right.
right? Or with us. And even then, you may not completely understand.
Right.
But that's the closest you can get. You get what I mean? So
Sure.
in those
Yeah. No.
cases, it can come off as very insensitive when somebody who is not black says something and everybody's like, well, you don't know what you're talking about, because the truth is you may not. And I would
Oh,
say
I
that
agree
for
with that
white people,
wholeheartedly.
the thing is to just listen to what black people have to say to you.
Sure.
But you're a smart guy. I know you can tell the difference between somebody trying to educate you and say, hey, look, this is what maybe you should have said, as opposed to people
Right.
telling you, hey, yo, Papa,
Just
shut the hell
just
up,
stay
right?
the fuck out of
Yeah.
it. Yeah. And
You know
then
what I
like
mean?
and then when I'm
So
like, hey, this is annoying, it's like, oh, did you think you were gonna save black people? It's like, what the fuck, dog? I'm
yeah,
just
even I thought that was stupid.
yeah, it's like because and it's funny that you brought that up that with like how I'll never understand, because this is going to be a weird perspective, but I think you'll understand. So with the whole Emma Lou, you remember the Emma Lou where she said the N word,
Yeah.
and people are giving her a ton of shit, and like
Mhm.
I defended her kind of, where I said like she certainly should get shit for it, but I don't think that she should necessarily be like her life ruined, in the sense that like there's no like what the white ignorance on the N word simply comes from the fact that there's nothing anyone could ever say to me that would ever diminish me, especially in a singular word, than anyone. Then you could say like when it comes to like applying the N word to a black person, right? You can't say anything to me that's like going to have the same weight that the N word will have on like you, right? And so like
Correct.
that also comes to a point where it's like, well, I'll never understand it, so I can never truly understand like the impact. So some young dumb kids think that like the shock value is funny because they don't get it, and that comes from like what you were saying. And I know I'm being too maybe I'm being too sympathetic for white people when I'm displaying when I say like I understand what you're saying, but like that's why white people in some cases don't understand it when they're like the dumb kids saying it on Call of Duty lobbies. I'm not talking about the fucking white racists that are doing it while they're no, you know what I mean, where sometimes it comes from like ignorance. But I do wholeheartedly agree that there's just like things that white people will just like never get. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't ever really want to get it. Like I acknowledge that it's not something that I want to experience. You know, I don't want.
To try to understand it from from an objective point of view.
Mm,
But not a lot of people are like you, and that's the problem, right? Not a lot of people are open to
I'm
listen and
Papa
take the
God, you
feedback and be like, I
know.
get it. And because the majority of people are not like that, I don't just mean white people, I just mean people are stupid. Like most people are
Oh yeah,
stupid, right?
everybody's stupid. It's just
Um,
that white people just happen to be the ones in power. That's literally the way I look at it. It's
exactly, and they're
it's
stupid and in power, right?
yeah, right. It would have
So
been the same. I say it all the time. It's like if black people were in power, we'd be having the same thing. We would just be the fucking, we'd be on the shit end. You know, it's
yeah, yeah,
literally just like it's purely like honestly luck. I think. You
yeah.
know.
But I think that like not everybody's gonna be a papa guy. Not everybody's gonna like try to understand the criticism we may get, and some like that's why a lot of black people in these cases, their first thing is just to skip to being offended, right? Like, oh, cancel Emma Lou. She said the N word and she's not black. Right.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
is it really that serious though? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
It
feel like
depends on how they
the other
apply
one was
it. Yeah.
worse.
Which
Who was
one was
the
that?
other? The one that got canceled after Emma Lou. She said it during a live video. She was rapping a song and she said
Oh,
like
you think
half
that
the word
Ashley
and stopped.
videos? I don't think that was
Ashley,
worse.
yeah.
I think that was better.
That was
She just went to say like with the A in like a song. You know what I mean? Like if you're
no, that was I'm saying that was worse than Emma Lou in that
oh
like it wasn't as bad as
oh
her,
they
and
got it, but they
still
went
can't
after
yeah.
her.
And
Yeah.
they
Well,
still canceled her for that. I'm just like, are you guys fucking? She barely
yeah.
said half the word.
Yeah. She like
Like
removed her
what?
whole account too. Like
Yeah,
it's
and they
so
were like,
sad.
oh, oh well, if she said it then she probably says it in her life, and it's like,
Listen.
who gives? If you're bumping to a song, bro, like you think
Listen.
I'm gonna
I'm
be
not.
like? Do you think if I have white friends and we're all listening to like DMX, I'm gonna be watching them like Hawkeye to make sure they don't say all the N
Yeah.
words?
Well, they got to
I
put
don't
their.
give a
You
shit,
gotta do
dude.
the Addison Ray. You put your hand
Yeah, like
over
we're
it.
bumping. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. I
we.
get
I
that.
dude, I hate cancel culture unless we're canceling racist.
Right, right. Well,
Then it's
well,
fine.
but that brings us to a new conversation because I get what you're saying. Hey, let's cancel racists. But your interpretation of a racist and the more progressive person's interpretation of a racist are very different. Like
very different.
and that's where we come into like this. That's why I'm not for canceling racists per se, because I think that most racists are really just racially ignorant people that just don't get it. They're not people beyond education. And when you cancel just an idiot for saying something that he just didn't get, I honestly think that you're perpetuating racism, because now that person's gonna be like, oh well, I didn't think I was being racist, and then I got my whole life ruined, and now I don't like black people because you know what I mean. And again, I'm not trying to blame black people for racism because it's not black people's fault. But in these very, like what you said before, nuanced situations where like a dumb white person just doesn't get it when they say like the N word, like they'll just post a meme on the internet and then it's like, haha, and then they get canceled like Sky Jackson. I think
Yeah.
canceling it rather than education
Thank God.
ends up having a very profoundly negative impact on like on people in general, and it does perpetuate racism. It does harbor or create more racists.
I think that so like that comes to the other argument, right? Like you said, like you don't think a lot of people are racist, but they're like racially ignorant.
Yeah, yeah.
Or racists are racially ignorant, but they don't really know it. And it's like when you think about it, right? And this is where the problem lies as well. No, rarely, I'm not gonna say often, but rarely people who are racist don't self-identify as racist.
No, they hate it. They don't want to be
So,
racist. That's what I mean.
yeah,
Like
so
they don't think they're being racist, but they are.
But yeah, but they are. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. Like I'll give you an example, a very simple example. Somebody says, I have the Confederate flag. I don't think it's racist. In my eyes, you're a fucking racist.
You think
Even
so?
if you don't self-identify as a racist, I think you're racist for being that dumb, right? Or something like, because here's the thing. Right?
Well, I know a lot of people identify with Southern pride when it comes to that flag, right? To
They're
their
idiots,
credit.
right?
I'm just saying, to their credit. I want to be contextually
Right.
accurate.
I have no mercy for these people. And and the thing is, it's that like if nobody would ever identify as racist, how would we know who's racist or not? Unless we actually looked at their actions, things that they said, and picked up on subtleties. And here's the thing, I think personally, I think that somebody like me is a little better at picking up those subtleties. But again, not everybody's me, not everybody's you. Am I saying that me and you are better than everybody else?
Yeah,
yes, that's
there we
exactly
go.
what I'm saying, right? And that's just the way it is. Like, not a lot of people are as intelligent as you or I might be. Or socially aware or self-aware.
People are saying take the loss. It's like when it comes to like people who like the Confederate flag, it's like, well, you identify with that flag, take the L. It's got a good point.
But it's like, so how do you find these people? Like, what's the answer, man? Like, how do you figure out somebody's racist if they don't self-identify as
Yeah,
it?
that's true. That's a good point. It's really
You
up to
know?
like our interpretation of them being racist or not.
Yeah, and
That's
then
fair.
you have I feel like the far left ruined everything because back in 2014, 15, 16, 17, they thought everybody was racist. And you know what
Oh,
I
that's
mean?
when
They
shit
thought
got bad.
everybody was
Yeah, yeah.
transphobic, and that
Well,
really,
that feels like
and
nowadays
I
too.
called it. I called it. I said back in 2015, I was at a YouTube channel. I was really like with the whole anti SJW thing, and I said you guys are going to diminish what these things actually. That's why the right still calls us snowflakes, despite the fact that most of us now aren't. That's a term used for the far left.
Well, I
We're
would
not
say that
sensitive to it,
I would say
you
the
know.
far left is as snowflakey as the far right.
Yeah, of course, for sure, right? But that it was coined by the right, thinking that it's oh, the snowflakes, which is true. But it's like, and that movement, the whole SJW thing, really diminished the talking points that we can have today, right? Where I say, well, how do I find somebody who's racist if they don't self-identify as racist? And me, as a person of color, can see things in people and think to myself, look, that is really racist, but you don't recognize it.
Hmm.
And then I get to, well, how do you know that they're racist? It's like,
Right, because it's
trust me,
like
bro.
normal.
You
Because
know,
it's like a
yeah,
I get what you're saying. So like,
and I get called a snowflake because everything must be racist, and I'm just like, no, the far left ruined that. I'm really, this person is racist. Believe me,
yeah,
right?
right, and
Vote
it's
them out the ship.
I
You know,
understand what you're. I think I understand. Like when we talk about like Trump and the way that he speaks, like I tend to be more. I mean, I tend to be more empathetic towards him, right? In the sense where like, oh, I get where he's coming from, but then like to your perspective, it's like, no, that's racist because of what it harbors, and like
no,
I
no,
get what
I'm
you're
actually
saying.
like, I might lose followers for this, but you know what? A lot of the talking points that people bring up to say that Trump is racist, and I've seen him talk about these things. I
Mhm.
think I would say about half of them are taken out of context.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
About
Well,
half of them taken out of
now I have.
context.
It's hard for me because back when he like said the whole bad thing about people coming from Mexico and being all bad things. I don't want to say the word specifically.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
he's or no, excuse me, like the Charlottesville. Let's talk about that one where he's like, oh, there are good people on both sides, and he's like, but I condemn white supremacy. Basically, that was like, oh, he's being pretty clear. People are taking him out of context. But at
Mhm.
the debate where he would just kind of outwardly refuse to condemn racism and white
He
supremacy,
did. Yeah.
that like was that was a turning point for me.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
I think it was a turning point for a lot of people. I actually
yeah.
literally just saw a video of a black Trump supporter folding up his flag. I don't know if you saw that on TikTok.
Oh, I know. I didn't even know.
Yeah, yeah.
He's not
I'll
burning
probably
it
send it to you.
though.
No, he's not burning it. He's folding it up and saying that he's
He'll
he's
take
going to
it.
vote for the person who condemned white supremacy.
Right.
And
Which is a big
it's
deal.
like, do I think Trump is a racist? Yes. Why? Because he's an old white guy, and I think all old white guys are
That's true.
racist.
Yeah. Well, then
They grew up
Biden
in a
as well.
racist
Yeah, yeah.
time. Like,
That's
come on.
true.
Like,
We made a lot
Biden
of
is
social
racist.
progress.
Biden is racist.
He doesn't give a
You
shit either.
know,
Yeah, no.
like,
He doesn't give a fuck.
yeah, he doesn't care about black people. Like, Trump doesn't care
No,
about black people. They're
it's
rich white
it's
dudes.
so
They're both
interesting. No, yeah,
racist.
because it's very interesting because I today once he said the other remark about how he's getting rid of racial insensitivity training and how he hates it because it's like radical, and that triggered the fuck out of me too. So like that's just another way that he's like denouncing like unity and not denouncing white supremacy. So I started looking into like critical race theory. I don't know
Mhm.
if you like looked into it a lot.
I literally understood the gist of it as soon as they talked about it, despite the fact that I never heard about it.
Yeah,
Like,
okay. Yeah.
yeah.
So I looked into it, and one of the aspects of it was I forget the specific label, but it was basically that the only time that we've seen social progress for like black people in America is specifically when it benefited like the elites, which happen to be white, but I think it's more of a class thing. But that's just me personally. And it's like
Yeah.
even like the only reason like the Civil Rights Act was passed is because we were engaged in the Vietnam War, and like it looked hypocritical to the world where we're like, oh, we have to spread democracy to to Vietnam, but we don't have democracy for fucking black people. And like it's crazy how like and I would kind of say that to an extent I think that the Democratic Party still kind of holds true to that, where they don't really give a lot to black people in terms of social change. It's
Mhm.
like just the bare minimum to like get votes and look good, because
Oh,
like I honestly, and I was like, Jesus, like this is like a bigger problem. Like I mean, I think that both parties are racist, honestly. Like,
absolutely,
yeah,
for
yeah,
sure. I'm not like, people
yeah.
really think that I'm a Democrat. I'm not a Democrat.
No, yeah,
Like, people don't understand this.
because nobody's talking about real ways to spread opportunity and equity like impoverished areas, regardless of whether they're black or not, to in any marginalized group. Nobody's talking fucking for shit except I think Andrew Yang, and that's why I love UBI, because I think that like just like money, like there is a culture issue in black communities, of course, that's a derivative of systemic racism, but like the answer is going to be money, like equity, money, spreading of opportunity, and then of course community leaders in those areas to like rally people around particular like the right, like the right way, so to speak, of using that money instead of like just pissing it away. But nobody's talking about really giving money to like black people, which is what we need to do.
Yeah, I can tell you one thing. When people talk about like welfare, and it's funny because like people like think that welfare is like synonymous with black people, but there are more white people on welfare than there are
Right. Well, there's a lot more
black
white people in general. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but there are
No,
more
I
white
know,
people on
yeah.
welfare, so it's like
For sure, yeah,
like,
yeah.
The percentage argument always gets me because it's like, well, per capita, but it's like, well, per number, literally there's more of you, right?
Sure,
so
yeah.
who's really leeching off the government? Because the numbers don't care. The economy don't care.
Well, I would
right?
take the perspective that with our current system, the way it's like portrayed, we're going to have the same number of people on welfare regardless of the way it's distributed. It just happens to be more black people because of like the of days past. Yeah. Right. Like it wouldn't matter if it was equal. Yeah. I mean, what I'm saying?
What do you think happened when black people went to war and were promised benefits and didn't get nothing?
Get it. No, people don't know that. It happened by me. It happened like all the white people got a ton of like free land. Go live like after even like the Vietnam War. Go here, you go land cheap as fuck. Here's a house. Black people not like literally nothing. People
go to the ghetto. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah. Even by where I live, like some of the parkways are built so that like the bridges are too low for inner city kids to get out here because they didn't want them. They didn't want them ruining the beach. They didn't want black people ruining the beach out here, so they built the bridges too low.
I wish a lot of people knew these things. I think I see it.
It's crazy. It's so fucking crazy, and it's weird because it's like it's these individual like rich people who like are racist that like construct this, and it's so hard to, and people look at it so abstractly. They don't get it. Like it's hard to understand where you see these little things. Like Jesus, like God, imagine building fucking bridges on a fucking like basically like a parkway, just so black people couldn't get to your beach. It's fucking insane.
People say that these like systemic racism. Like, geez, I can give a whole I can do an entire like 4-hour podcast on the history of this stuff. But the thing about the whole welfare and UBI, like I've heard a lot of your arguments about UBI, and I don't really know enough about it to contest it. So I'm never gonna make an argument about something I don't know enough about. But I will say this: when it comes to welfare, the issue is welfare itself, but the main issue is the human condition. And that is that we have a very deeply ingrained sense of complacency.
Well, yeah, people are lazy, selfish, and greedy by nature, and
for sure, absolutely, including me. And I think that I'm somebody who has worked pretty hard to get.
Well, it's funny. It's funny that you say that though, because because one of the biggest things, one of the conservative talking points on how to not be poor 101 is work harder. And I'll tell you, I before I did, because I do this full time now, but before I was doing this full time, I was like a blue collar worker. I worked for a union, for like a bus company, and like I'll tell you, like people in unions do the best that they can to do as little work as possible, and like people really aren't working hard necessarily to get to where they are. It's just like I had people who worked under me who worked harder and they made less money, and it's like. We talk about hard work, but then, like, honestly, people are bullshitting their jobs as much as possible. I mean, like, estimates say, like, people work, like, 45% of their workday. And it's like, that's the human condition. So it's like, really, the difference between you and some poor person is just that, like, you have a job that pays well, that, like, allows you to be lazy and make money for shit. Honestly.
And when I worked in, like, a restaurant, you know what I mean? Like that, and I get paid like 8 times that, like the ridiculous amount more than that.
And you don't work as hard.
Like, let me tell you something, man. If hard work was the definitive factor of how successful people were in America, Mexicans would be the richest people in this country.
Yeah, no, honestly, not even just Mexicans. Really, like anybody from like south of the border, like Salvadorians.
Honestly. They would be the richest people in this country. It's be like just work hard is a stupid argument, and I know because I've been on both sides. And that's the problem. People say if you just work hard, go get an education, this and this and that. Yeah, that's true.
Well, people,
It is true,
it is true. Like
right?
hard work will help,
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
only so
You
much,
know,
and only if given the
get
right
that
opportunity.
exactly. But here's the thing: I took my opportunities. Because I was very, and I'm going to use the word again, complacent for a decent amount of years, and I was working BS jobs, dead end jobs, and until I said I can't keep doing this anymore. I got to better my life, and I went back to school. I educated myself, and now I have a career. And I did that, me by
Yeah.
myself, right? Basically homeless doing it, right?
Oh, good for
So
you.
I understand both sides, but even now that I'm at where I'm at, I don't go on like TikTok and say, "Oh, you black lazy people, it's your fault why you don't like." Oh, if you just work hard, because I have been that person,
Right, yeah.
and I know how difficult it is, and I still recognize systemic racism.
It's
Yeah,
unfortunate that
it's like
it's unfortunate we can't have like an honest conversation. Like we can, but like as a society where it's like there's an argument to be made about the conservative point of like culture and hard work to a degree, but like it's always at the expense of the opportunity. It's like you have to just work hard. The opportunity isn't a factor. And then progressives like it's all opportunity, hard work. It's just irrelevant. But like it really is a mixture between like given an opportunity, and like given equity, and then also hard work on top of that. It's unfortunate. Like both sides, I think, have a level of argument to be made because there's a culture in impoverished areas.
the
There's
whole country.
in any impoverished area, it just
Yeah,
happens to be impacting
yeah.
Black people at a greater extent. You want to move on to a couple more of these
Yeah,
TikTok?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Let's do it.
yeah.
I know we've just kind of been having a discussion going
Yeah,
on.
no,
Like
it's
it wasn't
fine.
even. Yeah, no,
It's
I'm fine
fine.
with that too. Yeah.
I have no problem with it at all. Honestly, it's really not.
All right. So about this, white people, you can't say the N word. That's it.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
This one I think is like a joke about like all of our rights
but
get taken away. Like
yeah,
it's a joke. Yeah.
so black people, stop telling white people to say the N word because we're gonna disown you.
They're gonna keep
That's
reinforcing. Unless you're singing like a DMX, like you said before.
yeah, exactly.
I
This one is this is too long. What is this shit?
I think this is just. I think this is like about. It's irrelevant to Black people. It's just like pick me. Like whatever. Some
Yeah,
bullshit.
yeah.
Uh,
You
this
know what? No, actually, go back to that one. Was
is
that
it-
multiple points or one long paragraph? I couldn't
So it says,
tell.
"Get you a girl that can." Like these are all in quotes. Like so.
No, I saw that one before. The one before that.
This one.
No, the one before this one.
This one.
I don't see shit. Yeah,
Which one?
yeah, this one. What is this?
Hold on. Oh, I don't know
Right
how
here.
far we're going. I don't know because you're looking at my stream.
I just we're going one by one. Yeah.
So there's this one with this one black girl.
Oh, I'm
like,
sorry. So I'm watching your stream, so there's a slight delay.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. So this is the one where it's like, if our rights are snatched, my name is Skylar or Alyssa. Like, it's just making a joke. Like, if Black people lose their rights,
yeah, we can. Yeah.
yeah. It's like I'm not Black then. All right, guys. That's just like a joke, right?
Yeah. Gotcha.
This one, it just seems to be generalized. Nothing really to do with Black people per se. More of just like,
I don't.
Yeah,
that's a miss.
This one is like I'm Black and I wasn't offended, and I think that's kind of like I think we kind of have touched on that with the N word to an extent. But like, what does that mean to you? Because to me, it means like, hey, someone made kind of like a racist joke, but like I don't mind the joke because like I don't care. Like, and I, you know what I mean? That's what I interpret it as. And I think that's it's this is really like in context of what was that joke.
So again, I think that we have like three types of people when it comes to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm Black and I wasn't offended. You have the people who are Black, right, and are very offended by whoever said what. Let's assume whatever the joke was here, right? They're very offended. The people who want to fight you for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you say it, and they're about to beat you up, right? You have those people. And then you have the people at the other end of the spectrum who are I'm Black and I wasn't offended, right?
Yeah.
I think this is the point that I'm trying to make here. Who are these people? Because I feel again like a lot of them are young.
Well, I would say what's the joke though is what I would say. Like what is
the joke?
What's the joke? In context. Like if it's like kind of a racist joke, because I don't.
That is true too. What is
I don't think it takes.
I
don't think it takes a non-black person to take a joke. Like I mean, like not to get super hyperbolic, but if you've seen like the interview with Louis C.K. and Chris Rock, and Louis C.K. casually throws out the N-word. And I would say that Chris Rock's a person that, like, would be Black by the standard of, like, is growing up and whatnot. And, like, he thought it was, like, funny in the context and they're friends. And, like, I understand that, like, it's sensitive. But, like, that, if I would throw that on there. Like, if the joke was, like, some stupid-ass racist joke and, like, they didn't give a shit and that was their friend circle, like, I don't think that that's exclusive to conservatives who are like, oh, get over it just because a white guy said all Blacks are lazy, That's, I think, an assignment that some progressives would make. But I look at this more as, like, just on joke value.
Real quick, am I allowed to smoke a cigarette on stream, or am I going to get banned or some shit?
Oh no, I don't. I would be careful with cigarettes specifically. I don't know. I really
All right,
don't know. Like, I think you can
all right.
drink on stream, but I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, it's so fucking weird.
I'm going to temporarily. Yeah, I don't know how that works.
Oh, you
Can I
could
just?
just turn your screen off, I
I'm just
guess.
gonna temporarily disable my microphone
Oh,
real
there you go.
quick.
Yeah, yeah. Or your, I guess your
Um,
webcam, right?
yeah, I
Just turn it
just
the other
yeah.
way.
All right, all right, all right. Yeah, okay, cool. I could just literally. Why am I stupid? I could just do this. All right, cool. Anyway, so to your point, right? I think that this one is much more new. So, like you said, like Chris Rock and Louis C.K., right? Like I saw Louis C.K.'s skit when he actually dropped the N word because he actually made a really funny joke, and he's like, when somebody says the N word, he's like, "You're putting the responsibility in my head."
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah.
when
I know
you,
what you're talking
he
about.
said that he said, "I think the N word is offensive," and he's like, "No, I don't mean the word." He's like, "I mean literally." The
N
N
word.
word is
Yeah,
offensive because you're giving me the responsibility. Like when you said the N word, I don't think the N word, I think the word, right?
yeah.
So it's like you just made me say it in my head. So and then he makes a whole joke and then he says like he went to a cafe or whatever and he's like, oh that can I say this on screen? Can I say the N word with an A?
No, just,
Is
just for me. No,
okay. All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
So
Just
yeah, for you. Okay, for you. But he says, that N word made the shit out of my coffee, right? And when I saw that joke, I wasn't mad at all. I laughed my
yeah,
ass off. I thought
right.
that shit was hilarious, right? But then like I said, you have the people who are like, we just put them on the far left, which is like, he can't say that, he's white, and it's like,
Yeah.
bro, chill. Like that's the point of the joke. It's a joke,
Right, yeah,
right?
and so, like, this one
You
is, like,
know?
contextually, like, okay, what's the
Yeah.
context of the joke?
Um,
Yeah.
and I feel like there are, in this case, like the black people say, like, "Oh, I wasn't offended." Do you have the opposite end of the spectrum, who are the people who don't think anything that is offensive towards black people
Right, yeah.
is offensive, whether it's a joke or not? They're just saying, like, "You guys are being offended for no." So it's nuance. Again, it's really difficult to tell sometimes. I feel like this one is more of like um, honestly, I feel like either this is talking about the straight like Christian Walker type people, or like the bot Trump accounts.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like I'm black
Yeah.
and I wasn't offended, but it's a white
Right,
kid.
well, you're saying
You know
what
what I mean? With
she's
like a
what
black stock
what
photo.
you're making the argument is what you're saying that she's saying.
Hmm.
Right, and
Yes,
then, like,
her
yeah,
in
and
particular.
and, like,
Yeah,
again, I know I'm not black, but I think that there are some black people that, like, are looking at that, and they're assigning their own value, and, like, that actually makes sense, like, obviously, she's the one making it, so
oh, we
you would
project all the time.
yeah, you would assume what she's making, right, is the one, but, of course, like, when you tell a story, everybody's gonna, they're gonna kinda put their own value
Like
to the
I
things.
don't know what she's saying in particular. Maybe she feels like
Yeah,
anybody saying that they're black and they weren't offended by any black joke is
like a pick me, yeah, yeah.
yeah, a pick me, right?
But I can
Maybe she does
understand why
feel that
I
way.
can understand why some black people would be like, no, like I joke around with my white friends and like,
Hmm.
and I honestly do genuinely believe that especially men love making racist jokes regardless of the race. And like black, I think that like black and white friends, they probably I mean they do. I've done it with my black friends. Like you don't give a shit. You guys just rail on each other respectfully with anything.
Friend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And I think that
Yeah.
like a lot of people assign that to that,
Yeah.
right? Or
You know,
especially young or just black people in general, or some black people.
the thing is also is that like damn, what was I gonna say? I totally forgot. I just whiffed. I totally whiffed. Yeah. So no, this is what I was gonna say. Do you know who like when so I have one of these audios and you might run into it because
Yeah.
I have
I'm
a decent
gonna
amount of followers
we're
and I get
gonna
a
get
lot
to
of
it.
views.
I'm only moving it
Yeah, yeah.
off there because like I had a bad
Um
word on it.
but when I made mine, do you know who the people who were the most offended because they think that I'm not black?
Who's that?
Black teenage girls.
Yeah, girls are something else,
Black
man.
teenage girls. Yeah, black teenage. So like men, like as just like when you talk about like gender norms, so like I think that men are generally less offended by certain things,
Sure,
right?
yeah,
But
for
like
sure.
the people telling me in my own comments that I'm not black were mostly black teenage girls. It's like they're the most offended. It's like so they look at me, somebody who is I'm black and Puerto Rican, right? And for the people who don't know, Puerto Rican is not a race. It is it's a nationality, right? Um, so I can't be Puerto Rican unless I'm completely native, unless I'm Taino, and
Mhm.
I'm not Taino. My ancestry is African and Indian, and that is the reason why I look Indian because the Spanish came over pretty much RAPED, right?
Mhm,
All of my
right, yeah, yeah.
ancestors, and it was all Indians, Spanish people, and the Africans who mix up with my culture, right? So I'm basically black, right? But I'm not Taino. So like, do you have to be Taino to be Puerto Rican? That's a really stupid argument. So I'm black. I grew up with like my mom is black, right? And my Spanish side was very, very racist.
Mhm.
Very like there are a lot of Hispanic people who are very
Well, I think that
racist
there are,
towards
yeah, no,
black people.
what
You know?
to bring up a point. I know this is a little off topic, but like where I
Yeah.
used to work, like it was everybody versus black people. Like everybody was like almost like white and Hispanic people almost bonded over like being racist towards black people. Very
Yeah.
bizarre, and I think that that's kind of indicative of culture in general, which is I think what happened because a lot of times people be like, well, white people used to be like basically oppressed too, like Irish people. I'm like, yeah, sure, but we kind of always as a country used black people as like a hey, look at them, they're more different than us, and like we're doing that with I think Hispanic people now too, because like honestly, Hispanic people come over, they're pretty like religious. That's generally a core value of a lot of Americans, and then all of a sudden it's like, ah, you're a little different, but look at the black guy, and that's like something that we still do today. We rail on black people, to like bond, or like Hispanic and white people bond over it. It's weird.
But so what is she saying in this video?
Oh, okay, this one I
Girls,
think is this is
is that one
another.
for women? Like the Runa
Yeah,
armies that they're
yeah.
talking
It's
about
just like
here?
makeup is so unnecessary, blah blah blah. This isn't black specific. It's just like a joke using the audio. This is just about a PS4 or whatever, or five
Okay,
being
okay.
cheap. It's whatever.
Yeah.
This one might be. This is black girls be minding their own business, literally, and here go all black men saying black girls. And like I think that's a fair assessment because I do think that well, really everybody, but there is like just like in any other community, there is like sexism within the community. And I do.
No,
I
for sure.
personally think that there's an issue in the black community of like just shitting on black women. Um,
Um, but from which because a lot of ironically, a lot of the black guys that I know love
mhm.
Hispanic women,
Yeah, right,
not white women. They love
right.
Hispanic women over black
But
women,
I'd say that just in
right?
general, it's the shitting on black women to garner attention from some other woman.
I can tell you for sure that that is not the majority of black men.
You don't think so?
Like no, no, not at all,
Because
not
I
at
would
all.
say that there's a level of well, there's a level of sexism in all communities. Um,
Um, honestly, and I'm gonna tell you from my perspective because most of my friends are either black or Hispanic.
mhm.
Most black men don't feel that way. Most,
Yeah.
most. I
Okay.
would say that there is a minority of black men who do that, but the majority, I believe, really love, respect black women. But it also comes down to like again, the black culture is also mixed up a lot in the whole ghetto ebonics type culture, right?
Mhm.
And the black girls who are very, very ghetto, which is almost become synonymous with the black culture, can be very ignorant, very loud, but also I love black women. I feel like they're very passionate, right? They're very empathetic, and they will stick the fuck by you, bro. Like for real. As long as you don't screw them over. But if you screw them
I
over,
guess
they will fuck
I guess I should have got myself a black girl.
yo. They
I could have, man. Like I could have.
phenomenal. They're
It's
phenomenal. They really are.
I
They're
could
they're,
I
they're
because I already I have a fiance and a girlfriend, so
mhm. Oh,
um
look at you.
yeah, so like I could never like I couldn't, but like I know like there's a few like now that I'm have like I have a little bit famous. I don't like to like
Mhm.
jerk myself off, but
Yeah.
I've been like propositioned by some attractive women in general, and like I was like oh shit,
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
because like I could handle like because listen, there's probably a little more aggressiveness, which I'm fine
Yeah.
with. I totally
Yeah.
down
I
to
think it's more about the attitude that that
yeah
some
yeah yeah. It's intimidating to some
some of the
people.
more whiter black people might not
Well, some
like,
of the
or
whiter
some of
white
the blacker
people
black
like
people not, yeah, right. You know what I mean? It's that's like I don't think really the reason why a lot of black hood type guys are into those girls is because they're fucking easy. You know what I mean? That's
right
what the issue is. They're easy. They're easily manipulated, so they manipulate them and they manipulate each other.
right
You know what I
yeah.
mean? That's just like a thing that we need to really work on.
White people can't
Without
handle like the fucking criticism. They can't handle back talk
oh,
from anybody. So
no,
white men just so
no.
they don't want. I don't know. Now that I get older, it would I would have I could have the intimidation's gone now. But
Yeah, I mean, if you can,
I
try
could
one once, I highly recommend it.
unfortunately I would be
Yeah.
castrated. So
Oh, okay, okay, but
um
yeah, no, I think
my girlfriend specifically has like an attitude. So it's like.
yeah, yeah. I'm mostly, I mean, I've dated a lot of different races. I don't care. I don't have a racial preference whatsoever.
Mhm. I
None.
used to, and now I don't. It's it was convenient for me now that I'm like committed. But like, it's like one of those things where I was younger. I was like, oh, well, this is a little different, and like now I
Mhm.
don't give a shit. Like now I don't care.
Oh,
But that's just how
I
it
love
is.
my Latinas though. Even this, yeah, but that's just me. But again, racial preference, I don't really have it.
Yeah.
So
So,
Yeah.
This person, just another when people say I'm black and I support Trump, is just another Trump supporter. He's swimming, so yay for him.
Yeah.
So I think this one is kind of, we touched on it a little bit, but this is one, if Black Lives Matter, then why are we killing our own people? And I think that that's like kind of a little bit of a discussion
Very
to have.
relevant. Yeah, for
Because
sure.
I think that me personally, I think people dismiss the black on black crime thing a lot.
Mhm.
I think that like when you look at the numbers, like proportionately, black people do kill each other, not only more percentage wise, but just overall, like the number there's the numbers are drastically higher. Like there's 5 times or 4 times more white people in the United States, and yet black people are killing each other at like a I think the numbers are like 2,700 murders, black on black murders versus like 3,500 with just white on white or whatever. So it's
Mhm.
disproportionately high. I just say that like obviously like we're both going to agree it's at least on the fact that like it's like violence is just a derivative of poverty, and like poverty in general is a derivative of a broken class system, but specifically black poverty has the additional layer of systemic racism and like like a hatred for government and like lack of opportunity and like even denial of particular things that I think does harbor like an increased crime rate in black
Yeah.
communities. And I don't think people
No, yeah,
talk
for sure.
the constant like the pure dismissal of this point I take a little bit of a contestment with, because I think that like you look at this and like this is an argument for systemic racism to me. And
It is. Exactly.
people are
People make
cheating
this argument
themselves.
against systemic racism. That's
Yeah.
the thing. They just think that black people are just like we're just killing each other because
Well, they're just
because
inherently violent, right? Like that's the
yeah,
whole.
you know what I mean? Like that's, and then they say, oh no, we don't think that black people are just inherently violent,
But
but
they
they're
won't
killing each other.
tell you. No, that fucking gets me.
Yeah, it's
It's
really
like just
stupid.
say that you think black people are just inherently inferior or not. Because I had a kid on my stream a couple weeks ago where I was like, we had a conversation and I was like, I brought up a whole bunch of things. He's like, and I asked him, I said, so like, I made the argument that like black people and white people are like equal intelligence given the same opportunity. He's like, well, no, actually the numbers don't show that. I was like, the numbers don't show that because there's never been a test on this thing. And we got this whole point and he's like, yeah, he was like, yeah, they're less intelligent, they're more violent.
I actually saw your TikTok.
Yeah, that was a
So-
TikTok, but it went further, and I was like, so you're saying that black people are just inferior? And he's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. That's what you're saying. I'm like, no. I was like, you're saying that they're less than. He's like, no, that's your interpretation. If you think intelligence and violence, and I was like, yeah, I do think that like intelligence is something like overall. So you're saying that overall black people are inferior, and that it's not a derivative of like any type of systemic racism, and like. The people just say it. Just say you think black people are inferior. At least we can have an honest conversation. Then.
Here's where I go back to my point that I said before. You derived from that do you think that he was racist?
That's a good question. Yeah, maybe. I think that I think that there could be re-education there. But like that's a good point. I know you're.
He didn't think that he was racist.
Yeah, that's true.
That is the problem.
That's
I
actually
guarantee
good.
He didn't self-identify as a racist.
That's actually a good point. No, he didn't, because he didn't. He certainly didn't. No, he did not.
So I guarantee he doesn't think that he's racist, but he is racist.
Sure,
and that is just like, how do we determine racism? You can find it. Like, you really can. Some people don't want to. I'm telling you, man, it's out there, and like people think that, oh, we're all just being snowflakes. I guarantee you, a lot of us are not. We're really not. But as far as this one goes, right? Like, if Black Lives Matter, then why are we killing our own people? I'm going to say this, and I've made this argument before in one of my videos. If you start your conversation with "if Black Lives Matter," you have already lost the argument, because what you are doing is you are simply arguing the semantics of the name of the movement.
Well, you're saying that. Well, I think that there could be like an argument. It's like if you like, because Black Lives Matter means like, hey, black people matter, and it doesn't. Well, I think it does. You don't think that?
No, not at all.
What?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean all Black Lives Matter. It's like, okay,
I think it does.
But you have to look at the context in which it
does, I know,
right?
but like they're saying like Black Lives Matter and they're not being treated the same as everyone else. Like that's what Black Lives Matter is for, right?
So, for example, right? Like, let's say like somebody gets killed, right, by the cops, right? Let's say they're white. They get justice for it. Cool. Nobody complains about it, right? But the fact that the black people that we know about, and I don't want to get into the whole thing about the media, but we can, right? That like a black person gets killed and like the cops don't get prosecuted, or
right? No, I agree with what you're saying.
Leave, right?
Right.
That's what we're saying. Black lives also matter. Like black lives should matter when it comes to these issues, or like this, like Brock Turner, for example, right? 6 months for what he did, right? And then like a black person who maybe did the same crime, like 25 years, right?
Sure.
So it's like, yo, Black Lives Matter too, right? Like Black lives should matter more, right? But it doesn't mean that like because there's black on black crime, which has been a very prevalent thing in the black community for a long since I would say like the 60s at least and up, right? Because that's when like crime spiked, right, in the 60s. that it's not like, yeah, we understand, like when people say like, oh, you guys don't care about black, that's the argument, you guys don't care about, yes, of course we care.
Well,
When somebody dies and we
I
care,
think
but you're
it's
acting like the movement itself is
right.
going to like police the world. I said this, like, we're not the Avengers,
Mhm.
right? Like we're not going to protest over everything. If somebody kills somebody in the black community, probably go to jail, or nobody snitches and the person gets away with it. But that's just like
Right.
something that we need to work on
Well, sure,
as our
within
own
your
culture.
community, but
But telling
I
us
would
that
say,
we're not
uh,
wrong for, because there are organizations that work on stopping or preventing or helping things like inner city crime,
mhm,
better education, right? Stuff. So it's like everybody thinks that Black Lives Matter is the only black organization in the world that should be doing things, but we're not. We
mhm,
specifically focus on very specific things that have to do with like racial inequality, police brutality, and stuff like that.
mhm,
So making this argument that like, oh, well, what about black and black crime is stupid, because Black Lives Matter specifically doesn't focus on every single crime that every black person commits against another black person ever,
mhm.
right? It's a very targeted movement, and that's why I said, if you start your argument, if Black Lives Matter, no, it's not if Black Lives Matter. The name of the movement is Black Lives Matter. But if
Right.
you throw an if in front of that, you're taking away, you're generalizing what the movement means, despite the fact that I know that the name can seem stupid to people. So either you change the name, which they're not going to do, and
Mhm.
because they're not going to do it, anything beyond that is an argument of semantics of the name of the movement.
Well, I would say that generally when somebody starts with if, because I understand what you're saying, right? And I understand like making sure that you maintain scope as to achieve as much as possible within scope. But I would say that like I think that there's a decent argument to say like at its core, what this is basically saying is that that some people feel like there's a dismissal of real issues in the black community and ways in which the black community can be holding themselves back, right? So they would always rope this back to like hard work, right? And
Mhm.
like before, we had made the conversation about how it's a mixture between extension of opportunity and hard work, or
Mhm.
and then I would say that when you kind of disregard this as a factor,
Mhm.
people double down on their perspectives, like, oh, I knew it was just hard work. Like, you don't really give a shit about black people because you're not talking about the negative culture, black culture. Of course, again, I always bring it up that it's a derivative of systemic racism. But the only
Mhm.
way to fix it, one of the ways to fix it, is going to be basically doing the right thing. And people are and like trying to have like a social shift within these communities to stop violence and crime.
I think because a lot of these people don't live in black communities, they don't
Mhm,
know any of the organizations or programs that exist to try to help. Like you want to stop black on black crime, right?
mhm,
Make our education better, make our schools better,
mhm.
right?
Well, they would make
Um,
the argument that like some people just simply won't go to school, and that there's a lot of
make
like
make
higher
make
dropout rates.
contraceptives free, right? Like
Mhm.
shit like that is going to
Well,
help,
I would say
you know.
I understand what you're saying. Me
Like
personally,
like
I'm for.
you
Yeah,
get what I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. I get what you mean because
right?
like
Like
I always do, but I'm gonna plug it again. Like I'm a comprehensive guy, so I'm for like universal basic income over
mhm,
like small increases. But I understand what you're saying. I do get what you're saying. But
yeah.
I would always say that there's going to be a level of it that's going to be, a mentality kind of a thing and a culture type of thing. And I think that obviously the opportunity needs to be presented before like we can really make change. Like you're talking about opportunity just in the same way I am. We're just talking about it, like in different
Mhm.
ways. And
So,
like,
will I say this? Like, I'll level with you here, right?
mhm,
Do I think that, let's say, every single black person today decided, like, every person who is impoverished,
mhm,
right, and maybe is working a shitty job or no job or is on welfare, right? Let's say every single black person decided to say, I'm going to do something with my life. I'm
mhm,
going to go back to school. I'm going to get an education and I'm going to get a career, right? Let's say every black person did that.
mhm.
Then, like, would we get out of the issues that we have?
No,
Probably. At least, I mean, no, but I
I
think that
don't
a
even
lot
think
a lot of
so.
people
Yeah.
would, right? But I still think that people really don't get how hard it is. That's the problem.
Mhm.
They do not understand how difficult it is to uplift yourself from poverty.
Well, that's why
It
I
it
talk about like we need
like,
to
in
extend
order
the
to go to
opportunity
school, you
first
need
too, as
money,
well.
right?
Yeah.
You need money. So if you don't have money to go to school, right? You can't go to school, right? And then you go to school to pay for it, to get a job, to pay for school. So it's dude, the system is fucked, man, and
Mhm.
it is especially fucked for black people. And I think that a lot of people know this, and a lot of people are, dude. I really have this strong belief that most people are just garbage. I'm
Mhm.
so that most people are just garbage, and a lot of people are not going to try harder. They're not going to try to get out of the situation that they're in. And when you have people who start from there it's very difficult to get out of there.
Mhm.
Now, could we evolve as a race and say, guys, we really just need to do better? And could a lot of Black people uplift themselves and get out of that? Yes. Will it be hard? Absolutely. But I still think there needs to be an equal amount of change from the system and
Sure.
from Black people coming to terms and saying, like, yo, we really got to stop killing each other.
Well, I think
This
it needs to
whole,
be like a two-pronged effort of not just the system, but like the system in a sense of like
Mhm.
like I know I keep talking about, like, that's why I say, like, you need the equity there, you need the opportunity to be there, like the extension of help, like universal basic income. To me, other people have different ideas, but I feel like you implement that and then you could have the social change at the same time, and it will actually be productive social change that won't be so marginal, that won't be so like, well, because like what how much is how much growth you need to expect a level of growth in your lifetime. And some people are just like, hey, fuck it, I'm not going to get, why come off of, like, for instance, why come off of like welfare when like when I can live easy on it, then like
people
work
are
really
scared
hard
to as well. You're
oh yeah,
scared.
well, you
Like,
get fucked, you come off
because
welfare,
dude, if you get the middle class is, aside from just being poor, which is a terrible experience, being middle class is like you're the second most fucked, and I mean like lower middle class, right? Because that's when you really, like, the taxes really start to hit you. It's like, dude, I literally paid more in taxes this year than Trump did in 2017, right?
I think everybody has,
yeah, you know what I mean? So it's like,
well, that's
like,
federal income tax.
like, something that I had to consider when I started working my career was like, oh, like, now I gotta, like, I have to pay for my apartment.
Yeah.
I have to pay for my for my insurance, right? But because when I was on Medicaid, if something happened to me, I could just go to the doctor and I was covered. My
Right,
copay
yeah.
was like $2. You know what I mean? And like, a lot of
it's
people are
brutal.
afraid.
It's brutal.
Yeah, like you have to think about your family. Like, what happens if your kids get sick, if your mom gets sick, right? And kind of having that, like, things like Medicaid is a good thing. And if you make a little over that, a little over the poverty line, you're fucked.
Yeah, no, for
You know
sure.
what I mean?
That's
So,
why.
and I don't think people understand.
That's why.
This, like,
Hey,
because they haven't
Medicare for
lived
all,
it.
man. That's why we need some.
Yeah, dude. Like,
I liked
you know?
I liked Buttigieg's plan where it was like, hey, let's open it up to everybody based on their income. Of course, it would increase taxes, and then if you wanted to keep your private insurance, you could still have that option. That's what I liked. But that is an extension of opportunity, honestly. So this one says, how y'all look putting curly-headed, light-skinned, green-eyed mixed in your username. I guess I'm new to colorism. I think
colorism.
I think that to me personally, I think we're getting like so specific with a lot of these labels in general, not even just with this, that it's getting a little out of hand. But like, I kind of get like colorism and whatnot, whatever, I mean, it's just very new concept to me. I understand it. I just find it's taking me time to like grasp like new identities in general, whether it's colorism or it's just getting a little crazy.
The first time I heard this shit was the stupidest thing I've heard in my fucking life. I forgot what the situation was, but I was with a bunch of people, and somebody was trying to tell me something about somebody,
Mhm.
and there was like, yeah, that light skinned dude over there is always doing this or that. I think I was out somewhere, at like a friend's party or something like that, and I guess he had an issue with this person. He's like, yeah, the light skinned dude over there, and I'm like, I'm looking for the white person in the crowd, and I couldn't find him.
And yeah, I get that.
And I'm just like, what are you talking about? And he's like, the light skinned dude. I'm just like, the black
the
guy?
light-skinned black
Because
guy.
dude, when I grew up, there was no light skin, black skin. You were just black. And I'm just like, he's like the light skinned dude. I'm like, he's not light skinned. He's black. He's like, yeah, but he's light skinned for a black person.
Well,
like,
now,
like,
it's crazy because now we're at a point where it's like the way in which you are portrayed as black to society impacts your level of potential white privilege as a black person. Like, oh, well, if you have whiter features, now you're less of a black person. You might have even benefited. It's getting like so out of hand how specific we have to be and how fucking woke we have to be about everything.
Really ridiculous.
Honestly, it's like, shut the fuck up. Like, just like, let's just stop. Like,
but this one here is like, I think she's actually speaking against the people who are colorists.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
You know
she is. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, I have no issue with this because I feel like black people are colorists. Like, you're black, bro. What are you talking about?
No, right. I get what you're saying.
Like,
yeah, me, I'm just
unless you're not, if you don't want to be. And again, it goes back to the argument that like, what makes you more or less black, right? So if you think it's your skin color, then okay, cool, we don't claim you. But now you become a pick-me, and that's how we see it.
Yeah, this one I get. This one I get. It's just, I think it's just weird for like color. It's just it's a very new concept for me. So to me, I'd be like, oh, this is just kind of racist. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever. But okay, this one, this one is a funny joke. I thought it's like, y'all black guys really be out here dating white girls, and it's like a white girl. Like, this one's kind of funny to me. Um, that's pretty much it. It's a
Okay.
joke.
Like but he has a white. Okay.
Yeah, he has a white girlfriend, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's the joke.
Yeah.
That's just a joke.
It's
Here's
pretty
me.
weird.
Here's
It's
this
pretty
one
weird.
guy saying this audio is, that's me. And this we already talked about the N word one. Is I don't know who the fuck. Let's see. This looks like Fat Raccoon almost. Oh, this is another N-word one. I'm dark skinned. I'm dark.
Okay.
I'm not dark skinned. I'm brown skinned. Like that's some more colorism that we were just talking about. White girls should be able to wear braids if you wear wigs and weaves. Nah, black girls are just. It's more of the same shit. Unless you
Yeah.
want to have a
Yeah.
conversation about hair, and like.
Cultural appropriation, right?
Yeah, well, I guess like because to me, like I don't know if wigs or weaves have any cultural or like any type of like I don't want to say cultural. I want to say
Some
like.
like braids then, like cornrows, stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know, like if there's
Dreads.
any like literal significance, or if it's just like a hairstyle that's associated with black people because of like just the way the black hair is. Because like to me, like I understand like actual cultural appropriation, but there's a difference in cultural and like I guess you could say absorbing looks. And I think
I
that to
don't
an
give a shit if somebody does the hair. I really don't
yeah,
care.
because I think that to an extent, like if we there is an issue with Western beauty standards, and if you want to destroy those, unfortunately, people in social power, which would be white people, mostly white girls, I'd say, have to
Yeah.
appropriate a level of looks to start to normalize things like that. That's my only thing, So you got Ariana Grande walking around with darker skin and like kind of like more blackish, hairstyles, whatever.
Yeah.
I suppose it's helping, I guess.
I like honestly, I think you know what the issue is, and this is like when it came to like the whole anime black people, white people cosplaying like black characters and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I think why people get mad about cultural appropriation is because a lot of the cultures that people appropriate are like minority cultures, right? And it's like we barely have it.
Well, it's because like if you appropriate a minority culture, you're called out for it. Like if somebody appropriates like a white culture, nobody really gives a shit.
Yeah, like if
including white people.
If I dress like a leprechaun, right? Nobody's gonna call me a racist against.
Nobody
like,
gives a shit.
Irish people.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like nobody gives a shit about that.
Mhm.
If I dress up as like a Celtic, you know what I mean? Like, do you think
nobody
anybody's gonna care?
nobody fucking care. White people don't
Yeah.
give a shit about their culture. That's what the thing,
Yeah. I mean, well, that's because white people fucked up most of the world. So
Maybe yeah,
it's
sure.
just,
I mean, suppose
like that's why. Like, come on, can you really be mad at that?
we're just so holier than thou that we don't care about simple matters. That's
you
what
guys made the guns, and that's really what it was. Like,
it's so funny because I mentioned that to that kid the other day. I'm like, I honestly do think white people are just inherently more violent than other people, only because like, what do you think what do you think creates technology? Like the desire to murder each other, like it pushes technology. That's what I think, honestly.
How can we kill people in more terrible ways?
Yeah, it's like we got really good at it.
By accident.
Yeah,
Okay.
honestly, it's like we made we did it really. We're really good at killing other people, and we were lucky to be born in like the areas that like have the natural resources you need, to start off technology. Like we're just white because like the climate was like made us white, and then like our natural resources were like good for doing shit. We had very tempered climates for soil and whatnot, very rich soil, and it kind of like pushes on from there. Yeah, and then we just got good at killing things, and we made better technology, and then we started colonizing, and everybody colonized. We were just like we were just the most recent colonized.
Yeah, you guys had boats and stuff, good boats.
Yeah. So then now we all have good boats, right?
Yeah, now we all have good boats. Time to turn the tables.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah. That's, and I think that's a fear of some white people. It's like if we give up our power, are you going to turn it on us? And then there is a narrative that's like, yes, we want revenge, and it's like, that's not making.
I'm just gonna make all the mixed babies I can until you guys are just done.
We're all gray.
I mean, dude, I don't know why people are like so afraid of that. Like, there are many cultures who just die out because of like mixed breeding over time.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't give a fuck.
Whatever.
I don't give a shit about white people. Fuck white people.
Next
this is another joke about how she's like attracted to Tom Holland. I think that is. It's whatever.
Okay.
Or I guess, and also all these other white people. That's whatever. I don't care about that.
Yeah.
Wow, what black boys say sound like when I say I don't date black girls because they're ghetto. That's something I don't even think I can necessarily speak on. You said that there might be an issue with that. I don't know.
So one, this girl has to be ghetto herself, right? That's why she's mad about it.
Right. Yeah.
Unless they're talking about like the again, this comes back to what I said when there are black people who say stuff like this and they haven't actually grown up with black people. Or
right,
even
I get what
black
you're saying.
people,
Yeah, okay.
Right? Let me tell you something, because I was actually
that's an argument towards that person's case though, because like if you're a black guy that grew up in like we'll say like like I don't know, like a regular area. I don't know if that's offensive, whatever. You get my point. Like you're not going to be attracted to anything. We'll say
Ghetto.
what do you want to say? Poverty related? Would you say ghetto is like
Ghetto.
a
I would say ghetto. Ghetto.
yeah,
Ghetto.
okay. So like that's
Yeah.
that's like a strengthening point to them. So maybe it makes them seem less black, but I think it's just like that's the culture they grew up in, and
Dude,
like
the only people who like ghetto girls are ghetto people.
ghetto
Like
guys.
nobody likes ghetto girls,
And
right?
also like
So,
really skinny, pasty white guys.
but the thing is here, right? So it's like if they're saying that again, I don't think this makes them pick me, but if they're talking about just like black girls in general, because here's another problem, right? And I talked about this with Jolly Good Ginger, and I strongly believe this, and actually I know this to be true. For a lot of white people, especially white, not even just white people, but people who have not grown up around black people, especially white people of white races and people from the South, they think that there are only two types of black people. Either we are smart, conservative, educated, Republican pick-me's, right, or Uncle Toms, or
Right.
we are ghetto, Jordan buying, living on welfare, gangbangers.
Sure.
There's only two categories for them, right? So the people who say this are those people I think she's talking about specifically. I'm making an assumption here, but I would assume that that's what you mean because like, oh, I don't like black girls just because they're ghetto, right? Like black girls talk ghetto because of the way black people have adopted like ebonics and stuff like that.
Right, yeah, sure.
And I know a lot of black girls who have that kind of ebonics in them, but they're not ghetto. But you know,
right,
like
I
that,
get what you're saying.
Like makes them mad, and you'll see how the blackness comes out of them, right?
You're right,
like that's when you're really see it. But otherwise, they're really just acting, whatever you want to consider. I'm just gonna throw up quotes here, normal, right? They're just being themselves, but like piss them off, and then you see the ghetto come out of them, but they aren't necessarily ghetto. And I think that for those specific people who think that like all black girls are either ghetto or like what do you call an Uncle Tom that's a female, right?
Yeah, right,
yeah. Or something, you know what I mean? Like, then I get where she's coming from when it comes to that. But otherwise, does anybody like ghetto girls besides ghetto guys? No.
No, I don't think so.
But
I don't know. I think now this is making me want to date a ghetto girl, but like again, I'm too old for that. Now I can't fucking date anybody else.
I don't know, man. I think maybe you can handle it.
I'm not too old. Well, I could handle it, but I can't do it. It's a shame. But like also, I don't think a black girl would put up with a polyamorous relationship. It's not a ghetto black girl. She'd fucking neither would either of my So my favorite hobby is when my mom is trying to get her white suburban mom persona on when she's around her white friends and she introduces me and I say, "Hi, what's up? And how you doing?" That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
That's what's funny. That's just a joke. When black American kids pick on kids from the Caribbean and Africa but put these in their bio, it's like a bunch of, I guess, flags from like black cultures. I feel like in general in America, they're like a lot of like I think that a lot of like I don't want to say non-American black. I want to say like black people that
talking about.
I think that there's a lot of hate. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Yes.
Yeah, the opposite. It's people who are from the Caribbean who are black, like from
they're
Haiti,
super
Trinidad, Guyana.
They fucking hate
racist against black people.
Yeah, they hate American black people. Yeah, I completely agree.
Sure.
When I used to work at one of my jobs, like they're like if you called like a Haitian person black, they get fucking livid. They hate it. They hate it. They don't like Americanized black people. So they think that they're like inherently lazy and like there's a whole thing that I don't want to get into the specifics, but yeah, I would say this is reversed.
Yeah, it should be the opposite.
This is a reverse, man. Honestly, when black boys post that they don't like dark skinned girls and prefer light skins and white girls because they're less ghetto. I mean, everything was fine until the less ghetto, but I think we've covered the ghetto thing multiple times.
Yeah, and actually, like from a perspective of somebody who just isn't black in general, they could view black girls who really aren't ghetto as ghetto because of like the way they speak. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah.
And then this is
somebody responding.
This is just someone responding to me. We've already basically talked about that. I guess this is one of those more respectful. Oh, here's you. I'm black and I wasn't a slave. Look at you. This is what I wanted to get to this one on stream just because I thought it was funny.
Go ahead.
I don't know if I have anything like I was black and I mean, like there's I guess it's an argument. I don't know how good the argument is. Like nobody was a slave today.
Yeah, but that's not the relevant point.
Well, usually people use that to dismiss systemic racism.
Exactly. exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I have an issue with,
And I
right?
really
And
can't defend the point. Like,
well,
I
well, there you go.
nothing. Yeah,
You
no,
know, like
because I've had like something for all the other points that you made, but this one is like, yeah, it's just fucking dumb. Who cares? It's just,
people say like I'm black. We're not slaves today. We're slaves, and it's like, dude, like the
well,
fact that we
no,
were slaves. Like,
you know what's funny
why?
though? They'll
What?
they'll say like you're not a slave anymore, but then they'll say, well, but you're a slave to democratic policies, and it's like, well,
The
which one?
Democratic plantation, they call
Yeah,
it.
and it gets me that it's like you guys people talk about welfare as like a trap, and I agree. And then they're like, systemic racism doesn't exist, but it's like, well, by your logic though,
Right? Like, oh my god,
welfare is
oh my
systemic
god,
racism, right?
it's hilarious, hilarious.
That's what I think.
Yeah,
So I don't know if there's many more of these. This is some white girl. We should,
probably not.
let's
Yeah,
see.
I feel like they're gonna be like all in the same vein or just like other
Yeah.
jokes. Maybe.
Well, this one is so like, it's like this might sound white savior or something, but to me, but why are white people using the sound like you mad? Like, I feel like this is white savior of her.
Right? Like, aren't you being the
shut
white,
fuck
like
up.
using the sound, right?
Yeah, like that's
well,
not a legitimate contestment. It's like, hey, white people, like fuck you. Black people, do you like? I don't know. Maybe I'm being too mean to her, but this screams white savior to me a little bit.
I haven't really seen white people using the sound too much, but if they are, in what context would they be? I haven't seen it. I haven't seen. I can't talk about it because
all 36,000 of these likes are other white girls.
Oh yeah, of course, for sure.
Not to be sexist.
Yeah.
Oh,
White
and
girls
so
are like,
this is a black girl saying the same thing with fewer likes. How it's a little ironic to me. You think that the black girl would be more popular?
Oh, yeah. Dude, TikTok is so easy for like the right wing or like.
TikTok is easy also for like white progressives that like use black issues as a token.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But I think even dude, like literally, you can literally just go and say like Trump 2020. It's like 50,000.
Well, conservatives are very galvanized. They stick to their own kind, if so to speak.
That is true.
They target it. They find it. It's because like conservatives they don't necessarily gatekeep as much. They don't care about they just care about like whatever. But like progressives like will consume each other very much over little shit, like just little shit. They'll just like you know who Mr. Bruno is? Do you know that TikTok critic?
Yes.
Oh, he made like kind of like
I commented on that video. People are telling me that like I'm wrong. I'm like, the fuck?
He made like a little bit of a poorly worded, like he was just making like, oh, people, straight whatever.
I don't even think I'm going to say it right now for anybody who's watching and you're on the left and you think that was offensive, you can go fuck yourself.
Even if it is though, even if it is, like it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And people will shit on him for it, and it's like, dude, you're beating the crap out of somebody who like is very not transphobic. They're not transphobic at all. So
yeah, like for sure. Like the come on, like it's oh my god.
You know how
whatever.
So
yeah, I know how it is.
But yeah, I think that was a productive conversation.
Yeah,
that was fun. I enjoyed that. That was good. I'll have to have you on my actual podcast soon.
Oh yeah, I'd love to. Whatever you want to. Maybe next time we can cover the whole.
Like cosplay. Yeah, I got to try to find some women to come on because I've had like one trans woman and then one cis woman. I had Gabby on here.
Gabby's fat.
Katarina.
Yeah, I don't. No, what's her name? I'm thinking about Garfield's fat. Is that her username? And her name is Gabby?
No, it's just Gabby Katarina. I think you follow her. You don't
know. Do I? Probably.
I thought you guys follow each other. I don't know. Who the fuck knows? And I had Julezog on here too. Yeah, I don't know if you know who Julezog is.
Do I still get to keep the Papa Gut follow, or was this just for like the DMs and stuff?
No, I'm not gonna remove the follow. No. Okay.
So,
I know people are like, well, I want the Papa Gut follow. I was like, I don't get the hype around me, but whatever. Yeah.
I think I get the hype around you because like, dude, I've been watching you since I had like 2,000 followers, if that. And I think that you're just very from my point of view, I think you're very objective. You give good advice without really bashing it. You're definitely not like me. Like I just like shit on people. You know what I mean? And you're very like, I think that you give very good advice while also being very neutral and also coming from a place that seems not exactly just kind, but like understanding and like trying to
like
come to
blunt.
Middle ground. I appreciate that.
Like
you know what I mean?
The bluntness of it. No, I know I'm not necessarily kind, but there's like a bluntness to me. And
and people like that, right? And I think that there's a persona about you that people really appreciate. And I like it too. Like that's why I started. I'm like, yo, this guy's like super based. You know what I mean? And then I've seen arguments that you've made from both sides. And like I can say like, oh, this guy's not really left or right. And like me being a libertarian, like even a little more on the left, I'm still like not far left. You know what I mean? I'm kind of like I have some centrist ideals, and I might have some conservative ideals too. But I think that's why people respect you, because you kind of just like you're not just purely subjective, you know. So
well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I get it.
And I won't give away that. Don't worry, I'm not going to unfollow you. Okay.
Cool. All right, cool. I want to be able to flex and yo guys, Papa Gut follows me.
Yeah, right. Listen.
I didn't have to pay 68,000 Twitch points for it.
It's cool. So. Yeah, there you go. That's a cool. No, I guess that's cool. That's a flex. It's so weird to be like I don't really want to say like a celebrity. You know, it's kind of
I do. Like when I respond to comments, people lose their shit. I'm just like, yo, I'm just a guy on the internet.
Yeah. No, I understand exactly what you mean. It's weird. And
do it on the internet, you know? I don't get it. People are like, oh my god, he responded. Like my life is complete. I'm just like, this was the pinnacle of your life.
Yeah, it is like, for some people, and I appreciate that I can do. I've been noticed twice now. Yeah. So pretty cool. Yeah. I noticed once when I wore a Joe Robe shirt. I bought it, and they're like, oh my god, are you Papa Gut? And I'm like, yeah, and they got a picture. And then another time I was wearing my Denelli shirt. And they're like, "Oh, are you Papa Gut?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So it was cool. It's cool. Just gotta wear the merch, you know. So so man. Thank you very much for coming on. I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed it a lot.
Absolutely too. Hopefully we can do this again.
Yeah, for sure.
Back to the point. Just to wrap it up real quick.
Oh yeah.
Point, I think that like in your case, I think that you should continue to talk about these things. Right?
Shit on black people.
Shit on black people, right? Yeah. No, but like talk about them, right? I'm not even gonna say like to be careful, right? Like because I don't even think your video was that bad. I just think that in the word you said specifically was just like when it comes to like, oh, just kind of
well, where I took a very I took a very hard stance that like on face value wasn't even true, because not all the audios were doing that. If I had said something like there are some audios in here that are problematic and take the perspective.
You're like me. You don't speak in absolutes.
Yeah, right. I could have been more contextually accurate. I could have said like there are some audios in here that seem more focused on putting down other black people with different perspectives than actually, I could have said that. I should have said that, but I said that all the audios, I was very hyperbolic in that sense. So
yeah.
But a good conversation came out of it. So
I think so too. And I think you're great. You know what I mean? I think that you should be able to say whatever you like, even if you're critical. You know what I mean? Hopefully, if there's any of my followers or the black community in here listening, you guys should be a little more open to that too. Even if somebody's a different race, you should be more open to listening to what other people have to say. If you feel like they don't understand because they don't have our views or our culture, explain that to them, right? But don't just immediately, like, if you guys know Papa Gut, if you've seen his videos, you should know that he isn't just the type of person who's just being discriminatory, right? But if it is somebody who's being discriminatory, then you eat them alive, right? But if it's like Papa Gut, then,
I always advocate for trying to take the high ground, but I'm just got to throw it out for context. So you
see my videos.
Oh yeah, so, right.
Yeah. But okay, thank you for having me on, man. Yeah. I'm gonna dip out.
Thank you for coming on.
Take care.
Take care. You too, man. Have a good one.
I want Papa Gut to pee on my face, but just as a friend. There's nothing weird about that. I want him to pee on my face.